TV presenter Sarah Beeny has revealed the sad news that 3 weeks ago she was told she has breast cancer. Now, it's a diagnosis she's dreaded ever since her mum Anne died from the disease when Sarah was just 10 years old. She says, "I've waited 40 years to hear those words. I knew I was going to hear them one day." She called the moment she heard the news the final frontier of fear. Now, of course, we're sending all our love to Sarah and her family, but it did sort of set me thinking, how do you cope with living with that sort of fear, Gloria?
Yes, I was very sorry to hear about Sarah's case. I like her very much. In my family, unfortunately, my mum died from breast cancer, and then my daughter Karen died from breast cancer. So it's something that I've had to face, particularly when Karen died, because I never sort of thought there would be a double hit like that in the family, particularly with the difference in ages. You sort of, not that you expect it, but then, I'm going way back, of course, then people didn't really talk about cancer very much. It was the big C and things like that. And so I actually, when I was in Northern Ireland, there was a gentleman who had been, I won't remember his name, sadly, but he was brought over from Los Angeles to run the cancer unit in the City Hospital in Belfast. And I sussed him out and I explained the situation. And I said to him, "What do you think I should do? Should I have gene therapy?" And part of me really didn't want anybody to tell me anyway that, oh, in 10 years you might be likely to have it or whatever. And he said to me, "How old are you now?" And I was in my 60s, early 60s. And he said, "You know what? I don't think you should have the gene therapy," although I did admire Angelina Jolie many years later when she had 6 children who decided to take the gene therapy and act on it and have a double mastectomy. But in my case, he's just said, you know, at your age, at this stage, and we are going back, of course, 18 years, just know your body, do your regular checks yourself, and have your mammograms regularly, have your tests. And that's the way we left it. But I think that, I mean, I don't worry about it every day at all. It's not a constant fear. I think I've done a head job on myself to think maybe it'll skip a generation.
Yeah. A
Maybe.
doctor said, it's funny that phrase, because a doctor said that to me years ago, know your body. And I took sort of comfort from that because I was thinking, oh, my body will give symptoms and show me when there's something wrong. But then, you know, a friend of all of ours who's super healthy, cycles every day, doesn't have breast cancer in her family, was recently diagnosed from a routine mammogram. She didn't even have any concerns at all. So that's kind of now set me thinking. I mean, is it something you worried about? Obviously, you were diagnosed, but did you worry about it coming back?
I worried about it coming back because I was given this 5-year window of, you know, if it's gonna come back in the same way that it did, then I've got a percentage of 60-something percent it was. And so for 5 years after I had my chemotherapy, I was just worried about, well, is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be... And when the 5 years came up, it's now 6 years, thankfully, but when the 5 years came up, I did feel... OK, let me breathe and relax. But it is still in the back of my mind, but I try not to worry about it anymore because I can't do anything about it. But like you say, I didn't even know it was there. So speaking about the signs, what are the... I didn't know what the signs were. It was just there at stage 3 and I had to deal with it. Yes. But I think the fear of me worrying if it's coming back can bring stress and then bring more illness. That's so I just try to put it out of my mind.
But Jane is right, you see, the
possible.
mammogram checks and everything, really important.
Very important.
The only trouble is that up to a certain age with the National Health and after a certain age when people are older, they don't do them automatically with the NHS, so you have to suss it out, really.
And also, I mean, it's not just physical signs as well. I mean, obviously, you've had issues with depression in the past. Is it constantly on your mind that it's hanging over you?
I think it's interesting because I think with me, I'm actually, because I've had for 33 years major depressive disorder or clinical depression, but it's more commonly called major depressive disorder now. I've been a bit gung-ho about physical illness, as in not fearful, because there's many people of my age at 64, because we all get different things wrong that we used to sort of, you know, not even concentrate on. And there's friends of mine go, oh, what do you think this could be this? Do you think this could be this? And I'm not really quite like that because it's my fear of depression. But it's been September 2019 is the last breakdown episode that I had. There is no rhyme or reason for that. And a hormone doctor friend of mine, a niece, said to me, don't question it. It's a perfect storm. It could be the tail end of menopause. It could be the medication you're on. It could be a variety of things. So, but I've realised that it's only with not having had it for nearly 3 years, because that's the longest I've ever gone, period, in 33 years since I had Matty, which is the origin of mine. That's the longest that I've ever gone. It's only in the last 6 months that I've realised that for 33 years, I have woken up in the same way that maybe people I've spoken to with anorexia wake up and their day is spent of thinking, what can I eat? What can't I eat? Where am I going? What's going to keep me around food? And they have this awful thing going on in their head. And mine has been, how do I feel? What's the weather like? Because I know that black cloud and weather can bring on a sort of a symptom. Where am I going to go today? How committed am I to this job in case I get my thing? Years ago, I think I mentioned to you guys before, we used to be plugged into the desk with a sort of curly wire. And it was a psychological thing of, I always had to make sure that there was an escape route, that if my depression came on, I could leave. I knew I never would.
Just to escape.
Well, it's great that it's been, it's been 3 years.
Yeah, so it makes me a bit more.
Very quickly, I just wanted to ask you, because obviously you've had your fall recently, and you're off your scooter and you're onto your...
I'm on my crutches.
How are you doing?
I'm doing OK, but speaking about fears, I have a fear now of, because obviously I've got to have my shower and everything, of slipping in the shower. And so I'm that person with the bath mat.
Oh, and Jenny, my mother-in-law, please show her the bath mat.
I have a bath mat that I have with me, and, you know, and I lay it down because I did slip before.
But you take that everywhere with you?
Well, I have one that I take away with me.
Yeah.
In your suitcase?
Yes, in my case, if somebody hasn't got a bath mat, because I have now a fear of slipping and tripping
And they don't
again.
have them. On the cruise, we have the most brilliant cabin, the most brilliant cruise, but we spoke about you, Glo, because my mum-in-law, Jenny, was obsessed about the fact that they didn't have bath mats in and you completely
You don't realise how
agreed with her.
important it is until you slip.
No, and she
then you're thinking, I should have had a bath
Gloria,
mat.
she'd want a bath mat.
There were a lot around when I was a kid. We had one in our bath. It wasn't clear plastic, it was like grey.
Rubber, yeah.
But I always look at them if they do have them in a hotel, and I just go, ooh.
Yeah,
I
but
think
Well, that's why you have rubber gloves. You bring your rubber
Everybody's
gloves, you bring your eco cloth, and you bring your fragrance, and you wipe it, and you thing it with the brush. You've got to come prepared. You know how many public toilets you go to and they haven't got tissue? You've got to bring your own tissue, and I'm not touching somebody's mat with my hands, so I bring my rubber gloves and an eco-friendly thing and a brush.
Thank you very much.
You can just
there you go.
But actually,
give it a clean
Brenda,
up,
you're right,
right as
because
new.
you're afraid of a fall.
I'm sorry.
NASA space missions and
mats.
rubber bath mats. Only on Loose Women.